Corn. Same thing with corn, man. It's genetically modified. It's taken over our country, literally. It's crazy. I think I mentioned it before. If you have Netflix, get king corn. King corn. Just like we were talking about with wheat, okay? Has anybody grabbed an ear of corn out in a cornfield and taken a bite? Anybody? You have? How was it?
I was young and my grandpa's Big Ben, and it was a great snack. It was hard to chew, but I chewed it.
Anybody else tried it?
Well, if it's grown, if it's
No, I'm not talking sweet corn grown on a farm. I'm talking the huge fields of corn. Yeah, I'm not talking about sweet corn. Oh, heck yeah. I buy sweet corn from the farmer's market all the time. No, I'm talking the large fields of corn, the commercial corn that goes to processing.
I never.
Okay? It's cardboard. It's like chalk. There's probably actually more nutrients in cardboard. Literally, I'm not even joking. It is a completely inedible food.
And what do they use it for? Feed?
Everything.
everything. They're making carpet out of it now, finally.
I believe it.
Like,
That's a good thing, isn't
like
it?
corn chips, for example? That kind of thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So everything has corn in it. Why? Because corn is cheap. They subsidize farmers to grow tons of corn, keep the prices really low. They have such an excess of corn because some people have found out that that's not good. So there's such an excess of corn that they have to find alternatives for it. Now they're making carpet out of it.
It's the latest, hottest.
Is that the same place the high fructose corn syrup comes
Right.
from? Is that
Yep, so
same
corn has a
form?
number of different names. High fructose corn syrup, guar gum, yeah, sorbitol, maltodextrin. I mean, you guys have probably read some of these things on food labels. Corn, 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 corn. It's crazy. But you don't know it because it doesn't say corn. So corn's in everything, and it's not an edible food. Okay? Now, again, I always give both sides. Native Americans have ate corn for thousands of years before we got here, right? Okay? They had hundreds of varieties of corn. It was a genetically strong plant. Okay? Just like in Peru, where they had hundreds of different varieties of potatoes. Now we've got like 2. And the main one is the russet potato because of McDonald's and all the fast food places. It's a giant lump of sugar. But when you have genetic strength and genetic diversity, it's a quality food. That's what the Native Americans had. We've turned it into, again, it's people. We've turned it into this factory process, and it really shouldn't be meant for human consumption. Like I said about cattle, if you feed corn to cows, if you fed corn to a deer in nature, it'd be dead in 1 to 3 months. Same thing with flour. If you feed white flour to an animal, it's dead. Humans are, we're more able to survive and adapt, and we get diseases and things, but it's just amazing how quickly these processed foods will kill animals.
What about dog food?
Oh yeah, that stuff's loaded with corn.
Because I tried a grain-free one.
Yeah.
And it gave them horrible bloating and gas and everything else. So now we're trying another domestic one.
Yeah. It's hard to find a good dog food because what's dog food? It's all the leftover junk of the industry. Give it to the dogs. So yeah, it's hard to find a good dog food. I mean, a lot of people that, okay, maybe they have a lot of time in their hands. I don't know, but they, make meals for their dogs. Actually feed them vegetables and things like. Anybody do that?
I do it a little bit, yeah,
Right.
and mix it in with their food.
Sweet.
But I use a grain-free food, and that will be corn-free. That's grain-free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's see, what else about corn? Yeah, it causes a lot of allergies. Major allergies in people and reactions to corn. A lot of times it's not as obvious as the gluten, doubled over in pain kind of allergy, but a lot of sensitivities to it. I talk a little bit about cattle. Remember? How many of you have seen grain-fed beef at the store? Grain-fed beef? Anybody? Anybody
Advertising's supposed to be
been
really
led
good.
to believe that you should be eating grain-fed beef? They advertise it like it's a good thing.
Richer, yeah.
Yeah,
Grass.
cows eat grass. That's all they eat. Okay, so no more grain-fed beef. But why do they advertise it as healthy? Because they can feed them corn because it's cheap and make them fat, and then advertise it to you like it's healthy. So watch King Corn. It's a really good movie. It's really interesting too about corn. I might have mentioned this in another class. I can't remember. They all run together. But when you eat at McDonald's, they talk about in the movie how if you eat at McDonald's, you know, you're basically eating corn and chemicals and potatoes if you count French fries. So why? Because the beef is 80% corn. It's, you know, corn-fed cattle. The bun, the preservatives, all the chemicals they use, all the sweeteners they use, it's all corn-based. So if you eat fast food, you're eating corn and chemicals. It's really about all you're eating. There's another really good movie called Processed People. It talks about, has anybody seen that? It talks about just the whole processed food industry and how we're becoming processed people. You know, we're not, again, we're talking about this consciousness. What's the opposite of consciousness? Unconsciousness. How do we become unconscious? How do food companies make us unconscious? Well, they lie, yeah, but they feed us food that literally makes us unconscious. How many of our kids are jacked up because of the foods they eat? Or, you know, adults, everybody in between. You know, we're walking around like zombies, you know, and the more zombie-like we are, the more we're going to buy the processed foods and go through fast foods and, you know, buy the latest ab roller on TV because it looks cool or whatever. You know, we've lost our ability to think for ourselves. And I think a lot of it has to do with the food. It's amazing how people's, not just physical, I mean people's mental state and emotions, quality of life, depression, things like that disappear when they start eating better foods. I mean, food can run you into the ground.
Super Size Me is another good movie.
Super Size Me! Yeah, that's a good movie. Okay, so soy. I had a hard time putting an advantage to soy because I'm not a fan of soy. There's a lot of myths about soy too. Again, it's another myth perpetuated by large companies that soy is a health food. There's no research showing that soy is a healthy food. In fact, there's thousands, literally thousands, probably more so than any other food. Corn, wheat, all these other things that cause problems. I don't think there's been more research and studies done on anything besides soy. And it is coming up with stuff that you wouldn't believe. I mean, it's absolute disaster for your thyroid. It's linked to breast cancer, prostate cancer, ADD and ADHD in kids. I mean, you can go on forever about all the dangers of soy. I did put a positive in here because natto, which is fermented soy, has been eaten by the Japanese and a couple other cultures, and it actually has an enzyme in it that's very powerful for cleansing the blood and cleansing the body and things like that. They literally ferment this stuff for like 3 to 6 months. And no, people in Asia don't all eat soy all day, every day. That's a total myth. Again, they just want you to think soy is good for you. All the research shows the contrary. It shows the opposite. And soy somehow got, I don't know, advertising, I guess, but you know, people who are wanting to be healthy, vegetarians and things like that, man, they went nuts with soy. Doing the tofu and the soy, you know, everything soy. And man, it is not a good food. There was a gal, I wrote down this quote because I thought it was pretty funny. I didn't write her name down. And she was a doctor, and she said, if animals, because this was done in a research study, if animals are fed more than 1% of soy, that's just 1% of their daily diet, is fed soy during the gestational phase of their pregnancy, they have reproductive problems and damage to the fetus. So if you can't, so this is her quote, if you can't feed it to animals, then find a gullible human being, make up a health claim for it, and feed it to them. So,
Vaughn, are there like deceptive terms for soy too? Like you're
not as many. I mean, it'll say soy usually, like soy lecithin. It might just say lecithin or lecithin granules. A lot of people will do lecithin because it lowers cholesterol. You know, and there is organic and non-genetically modified soy and stuff like that, but I just don't think it's necessary. It's one of those things where if there's that much controversy on it and that much negative publicity and studies published about it, what do you need it in your life for? You know? They tout, one of the things they touted it for was for protein. Well, you're a vegetarian, you don't eat meat, you're not going to get any protein, you better eat lots and lots of soy. Okay? So there's other ways. That's about it. Any questions on that?
Did you say lecithin and soy are the same?
Yeah, lecithin comes from soy. Yeah, actually lecithin's found in egg as well. You can actually find egg lecithin, or if you eat egg, you'll get a good source of lecithin, which is good for lowering cholesterol.
You can find one other though, can't you? If someone was cooking with it and it wasn't soy.
Oh, is it in lecithin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is one other food
There's
that has
one
lecithin.
other,
I
it's
can't
kind
remember
of
what it
a,
is.
because it's a plant one.
Yeah, you're right. I can't remember what it is. Yeah,
There's another one.
but there definitely is. So when it comes to, those are just some of the high residue foods that cause problems in people. The other one that I'll just mention real quick that I'm not overly concerned about is meat. It is a high residue food. The reason it's a high residue food is because it's very hard for the body to break down and process. The example I always give people is, you know, if you look at the human body and how it's designed, okay, we're not designed like a cow with 4 stomachs, but we're also not designed like a lion. They have very short intestinal tracts. They produce lots of hydrochloric acid. Okay, when you eat meat, your body has to dump a lot of hydrochloric acid to break that down into a usable form, to pull nutrients out of it and eliminate it. And if you eat lots and lots of meat, it will back up your system like you wouldn't believe. So it is a high residue food. It has not really been found to feed Candida and fungal issues and things like that. So it's kind of at the bottom of the list as far as our Candida fungus issue goes. But the main ones are definitely the wheat, anything starchy. We're going to talk more about fruit next week. Fruit to a certain extent, depending on the fruits and how you eat it. Dairy, wheat, all of those types of things. So we'll talk more in detail about the food combining 80-20 rules next week. And I think that's it. Is it time? Am I over time? What time is it?
10:45.
Any questions? Open forum. Any random questions about food or Candida or anything? Yeah?
Okay.
Gum? I don't know. I mean, I used to be a gum chewer like crazy, and I just don't chew or think about it anymore, but I don't know. It just all still has aspartame in it for the most part. I know there's some, like there's like a xylitol gum. There's a spry gum. Xylitol is not necessarily corn. It's one of those things you can actually call the company if you want to go through that trouble. Call the company and say, hey, where's your xylitol come from? A lot of it's not from corn. They get it from other types of, I can't remember the tree, but it's birch or some type of tree they get xylitol from as well. So it's not necessarily corn. Yeah.
One of the really great points you made, where you're talking about pasteurization and so forth, it's not good. I thought one of the, it's not a question, but one of the really great points is when you talked about processed food, putting stuff in cans and it was for emergency reasons.
Right.
And then they found out that you can keep it on the shelf for a month, so big industry picked up on that.
Yep.
We can keep it on the shelves for a couple of years, and that's, I just love that point. I mean, people don't know that. And
Yeah.
when you said that, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That's why they
the
do it.
birth of the shelf life business.
Yeah.
Yep. Birth of the
And it
grocery
was for
store.
emergencies from war, wasn't it? In World
Mhm.
War II
Yep.
or something.
To have rations during wartime.
Yeah. And it's great for emergencies, but now,
Yep.
yeah, it's a big
Exactly.
industry.
And it's just gotten more and more processed. And again, you know what I always tell people is we vote. We vote with our dollars. You vote with your
If
choices.
you don't buy it, yeah.
What's that?
You vote with your fork.
You vote with your fork.
Yeah.
There you go. So, and
Okay.
it's growing. I mean, again, this whole consciousness thing, I mean, it's a huge, huge, huge movement. I don't like to think we're slow here in Kansas City. I like to think we're on the cutting edge. Yeah.
Okay, so is there any good oats you could eat, or you
A good-
mentioned that oats, or
Oats?
yeah, organic?
Yeah.
Bob.
It's mainly, okay, when it comes specific to Candida and fungus,
Yeah.
okay, you really want to avoid breads and starches. You're going to need to avoid your grains for the most part, except for those 4 I mentioned. Okay?
So you should
When it comes to
avoid
the
those.
average person who just wants to be more healthy, I just say avoid wheat. Okay? So oatmeal, barley, you know, there's all kinds of other grains and stuff. Wheat is definitely the biggest problem causer. Okay? So if you're going to start making those baby steps to, you know, kind of cut some stuff out, start with wheat for sure. Yeah.
Ionized alkaline water, how do you get that? Because you really can't buy it anywhere, right? You have to get it up, buy an ionizer?
Yeah, you can, I know. It's hard to answer. I just wish it was so readily available to people.
You said distilled water is bad.
Right. Distilled water is on my negative list,
Yeah.
along with reverse osmosis, because it's dead.
What if you put the vitamins back into it?
It helps.
That's, okay.
Yeah, it helps.
Well,
Yeah.
at Whole Foods just a couple of weeks ago, I just was looking at the water, because I had read about it, and so I was looking to see if they had any ionized water there.
They have deionized water
Well,
and
they
reverse
have real
osmosis.
water, which is ionized.
Well water?
Real?
Oh, the real water.
Yeah.
I'm like, well water? Interesting. Hope it's from a good well.
And I did notice when I drank it that I can almost like feel it going through my body, which sounds weird.
No,
but
not at
there's
all.
Something different
The
about
real
it.
water
It's
is
hydrating.
ionized alkaline water.
Yeah.
It is.
But it's expensive. For
It is.
like a liter was $2.
Yeah, it's
You know,
stupid
and if you drink a lot of water.
Well, if you drink Fiji, it's about the same price.
Yeah, but okay, but if
I know, it's too
a single
expensive.
source of water every
The thing
day,
with alkaline ionized water is you have to buy a machine.
Yeah.
And I have a Kangen water machine. You know, I think it's the best. It's also the most expensive.
Yeah.
I think there are other quality machines out there. There's one called Jupiter. There's one called Sat. Or am I just naming planets? There's definitely one called Jupiter. And I wanted to say there's one called Saturn, but maybe I'm just being weird. No, Jupiter. Sorry, I was just naming planets. Jupiter, and then there's one called the Life Ionizer. And those are about $1,500 to $2,000. The Kangen water machine is $1,300 up to $4,000. I will tell you something interesting is from my research and talking to other naturopath and other doctors around the country, is there's various people that claim that their water is ionized alkaline water. I've never seen more people benefit and heal than from the Kangen water.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't deny its healing effect. It just gets people better. So there's other machines out there, like the Life Ionizer, for example. I know for a fact was invented and designed by a guy who had cancer. He invented the machine, healed his body of cancer, claimed it was the water, and he sells the machine.
Okay.
You know, so there's other stuff out there. I actually know a guy who sells the Life Ionizers, and I can hook you up with somebody for. I know people who sell all these machines.
It's not about. I don't have $1,500.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's.
Well, you can get free water then, in
Yeah.
Olathe from Kathy Weaver.
Yeah, Kathy Weaver, if you're in Olathe or Overland Park, she'll give you free water. I give people free water sometimes. They bring me a 5-gallon jug and I give them Kangen water for free. So you can find people that have machines and they'll give it to you for free. Yeah, I'm happy to do that for you if you want.
I go through
Yeah.
a lot of waters.
Yeah.
I'll be here all the time.
Yeah.
There's the machine called Vitalizer Plus. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, I've heard of that one too. Yeah, there's a lot. There's quite a few out there. There's quite a few out there.
Do you use tap water with the Kangen?
Yeah, it's actually hooked up to the tap. Yeah.
Are you concerned? Is it filtered in any way?
Oh yeah, no, it has a filter.
Is it-
Yeah, so it's alkalized, it's ionized, it's filtered, it's all of that.
You feel that it's filtered enough.
To be honest with you, when it comes to the alkaline ionized water, I'm not as concerned about the filtration. It is filtered. It's not the best filter on the planet. We know that.
Yeah.
What's important is the other benefits: the alkalinity, the restructure of the water, the negative ionization in the water. It's those things that make it such a healing water, more so than the purity of the water. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you use Adia with it?
Adia is different. Man, we could have a long talk about water.
You
Adia.
don't use it in conjunction.
Adia is. Here's what I do. Okay.
How do you do?
I don't want to confuse people. That's the thing I try to avoid.
Okay.
I do a teaspoon of Adia in a glass of water and drink it.
Not iodized.
No, it's still it's from my Kangen water
Okay,
machine.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it is.
okay.
But I just take a teaspoon of the audio clarity and drink it for the benefits that audio gives you.
Okay.
But the rest of the day, I drink my alkalized ionized water from my Kangen water machine. Now, if people don't have a Kangen water machine and they're drinking tap water or bottled water, whatever, I highly recommend using the audio clarity in your water because it takes the impurities out, it adds minerals back in. Remember we were talking about calcium? It actually breaks down that excess calcium on the body. They've actually tested on like barnacles that were on the side of boats. The audio clarity pulled the barnacles off the boat. If you've ever seen a barnacle on a boat, you can't get that thing off with a sledgehammer.
How's the audio spelled?
ADYA.
That's what stuff you sell.
Yeah.
So you just put a teaspoon in it and drink it?
Teaspoon in a gallon of water. I put a teaspoon in a glass of water and drink it because I drink my ionized alkaline water the rest of the day. Like I said, I don't want to confuse you, but that's just what I do.
Those drops you got me and your dad taking, that's doing the same, that's what we
I don't know
only
what you
need?
got. Probably the audio, yeah.
Oh, I thought you knew.
I think you probably have the audio. I don't know what other drops it'd be that you'd have in your water. So
Okay. So, I mean, it's great, it's doing this, all the
Yeah.
things good water is supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Okay.
Trust your kid.
Any other questions? Anybody wants